Framework for direct representation. Citizens and pledges. At the heart of this framework is the idea that each citizen has a unit of political power. Instead of voting at fixed times, citizens actively pledge their authority to a representative. The impact of a representative's vote in Parliament reflects the number of citizens they represent. A pledge carries weight. It requires a commitment of at least 1 year. This requirement ensures stability while limiting constant changes. However, citizens maintain their agency and can revoke their pledge whenever they lose trust in their representative. Such withdrawals immediately diminish that representative's authority without automatically granting power to another. After the 1-year period ends, citizens can reallocate their pledge, fostering accountability without chaos. No citizen will ever lack representation. If someone pledges to a candidate who has yet to qualify for Parliament, their authority remains intact. It is temporarily assigned to a current representative selected by the citizen or appointed through judicial oversight until their chosen candidate qualifies. This safeguard enables citizens to support new ideas without sacrificing their voice in governance. 2. Representatives. Eligibility, authority, and financing. A representative is not just anyone who collects pledges. To safeguard the integrity of the system, each candidate must complete confidential judicial screening and obtain a security clearance. The judicial branch oversees this process and manages the citizen pledge role. Due to representatives having access to pledge data, confidentiality is essential. Once cleared, a candidate can start gathering pledges. The number of pledges necessary to achieve office depends on various factors, ensuring financial legitimacy and sustainability. This threshold represents the resources needed to support office functions, campaign activities, staffing, travel, and salary without placing an excessive burden on constituents. Candidates who have not met the threshold still play a legitimate role. They can campaign, receive donations from individuals and organizations, and leverage party affiliations. Their supporters remain engaged. Pledges to aspiring candidates are temporarily transferred to seated representatives until those candidates qualify. After being seated, representatives shift to a different financial model where accepting donations is prohibited. Their funding comes exclusively from constituents through a dedicated portion of the tax base linked to their pledge base. This funding covers their salary, office costs, campaign travel, and staffing. A counterpart allocation supports the institutional expenses of the House, ministries, committees, and official state travel. Thus, representatives are financially autonomous from outside pressures and answer solely to the citizens who empower them. A representative's authority corresponds with the number of active pledges they secure. This authority influences their control over discretionary appropriations, legislative votes, and committee roles. If their pledge count drops below the qualifying threshold, they lose their seat but can still function as a candidate. Withdrawals impact authority instantly, yet appropriations already made stay binding until the fiscal year concludes. This design guarantees representatives are qualified and screened before candidacy, financially sustainable once in office, with adaptable thresholds, independent of donations, relying only on citizen support, accountable to their constituents, with authority linked directly to pledge counts, stable in governance, as appropriations cannot be withdrawn mid-term. 3. Legislative structures. Direct representation adjusts to the governing scale, whether it's national, provincial, or municipal. While the size of chambers and electorates differ, the principles remain the same. Citizen pledges empower representatives, judicial oversight ensures integrity, and finance directly comes from constituents. A. Federal Parliament, House of Commons. At the national level, the House of Commons is restructured to balance pledge authority with institutional stability. Around 60% of seats belong to pledge-based representatives, while the rest are allocated to institutional officers and unseated representatives. All representatives, seated or unseated, have voting rights proportional to their pledge authority. Voting occurs in two stages. First, unseated representatives cast their votes, reflecting citizen sentiment, followed by the formal House vote with seated representatives and rotational members. This process ensures inclusivity while upholding parliamentary order. B. Provincial legislature, Saskatchewan example. Provincial legislatures operate on a smaller scale but carry equal importance. In Saskatchewan's assembly, the pledge thresholds are lower, reflecting the smaller electorate. The chamber operates as unicameral, with the majority being pledge-based representatives and unseated representatives participating through designated benches and rotation. The two-stage voting process is also used here to guarantee aspiring voices are heard before formal legislative action. Institutional allocations support provincial ministries and committees similar to the federal model but tailored to regional needs. C. Municipal Council, Ridge-I-Na example. Municipal governance is the most immediate and citizen-focused. Regina City Council, comprising 11 seats, exemplifies direct engagement. Within a direct representation framework, moderate pledge thresholds allow residents to elevate councillors closely linked to local issues. Unseated representatives engage through rotation and gallery access, voting before the council advances to its formal vote. This format guarantees that even small groups of citizens can empower representatives while ensuring efficient municipal decision-making. 4. Budgetary framework. The financial foundation of direct representation is built upon a clear distinction between enshrined programs and discretionary appropriations. This separation guarantees stability in essential services while maintaining citizen-driven adaptability in governance. A. Enshrined programs, 75%. 3/4 of the national budget is designated for programs that are permanent, universal, and non-negotiable. These encompass healthcare, pensions, education, infrastructure maintenance, and other foundational services. Enshrined programs remain protected from annual fluctuations and cannot be lowered by discretionary votes. This assurance guarantees continuity and safeguards citizens against instability in essential services. B. Discretionary appropriations, 25%. The remaining quarter of the budget is subject to representative authority. Here, pledge counts directly affect influence. Representatives allocate discretionary funds to new initiatives, tailored programs, or regional priorities. Authority corresponds proportionally. Those with larger citizen backing have greater influence over appropriations. Withdrawals impact authority instantly, yet appropriations already made remain binding until the fiscal year concludes, ensuring predictability. C. Representative financing. Representative financing differs from program funding. Each seated representative receives a specific allocation linked to their pledge base, which covers salary, office expenses, staff, travel, and campaign activities. This allocation is fixed and independent of discretionary appropriations, ensuring representatives remain financially accountable only to their constituents. A parallel institutional allocation supports the operations of the House, ministries, committees, and official travel. D. Safeguards and stability. Enshrined programs cannot be diminished or reallocated. Discretionary appropriations are binding once enacted, even with shifts in pledge counts. Representative financing is capped to prevent excess and ensure fairness. Judicial oversight and audit measures maintain transparency in enshrined and discretionary expenditures. 5. Compensation and office funding. The sustainability of direct representation relies on a transparent and fair compensation system. Representatives must effectively serve without depending on outside donors, and citizens need to be protected from excessive burdens. A. Representative compensation. Each seated representative earns a salary funded entirely through the pledge base. This salary follows standardized measures to ensure fairness among the chamber, with adjustments possible based on living costs or regional service needs. Compensation aligns with the principle that representatives are accountable solely to their constituents, not external interests. B. Office funding. Office operations, including staff, travel, campaign activity, and constituent services, are financed through a dedicated tax allocation tied to pledges. This setup guarantees that representatives have the necessary resources to fulfill their roles. However, office funding has a cap. No representative may exceed a predetermined maximum, regardless of pledge count. This rule helps prevent unequal resource accumulation and maintains equity among representatives. C. Institutional funding. An accompanying allocation supports the operations of the House, ministries, committees, official travel, and administrative staff. This ensures the governance machinery runs smoothly independent of individual representatives' pledge bases. D. Safeguards. Salaries are standardized and reviewed regularly to uphold fairness. Office funding is capped to prevent excess and maintain equitable distribution. Institutional funding is protected, ensuring the chamber's stability. Judicial audits promote transparency and accountability for all financial flows. 6. Aspiring candidates. Not every representative begins with enough pledges to enter Parliament. Aspiring candidates are those who have passed judicial screening but have not yet met the qualifying threshold. They function as legitimate contributors to the system, empowered to campaign, gather pledges, and gain citizen support. A. Rights and responsibilities. Aspiring candidates may campaign publicly and pursue citizen pledges, accept donations from individuals, organizations, and parties to support their campaigns, join debates, forums, and committees as allowed, represent citizen interests through proxy arrangements. They bear responsibility for ensuring transparency in donations and expenditures, upholding judicial clearance requirements, maintaining confidentiality regarding citizen pledge data. B. Proxying of pledges. Supporters of aspiring candidates are never disenfranchised. Their pledges are temporarily assigned to seated representatives, either by citizen choice or judicial appointment. This guarantees that every citizen's authority remains active in Parliament, even when their chosen candidate has yet to qualify. C. Transition to seated status. Once an aspiring candidate meets the qualifying pledge threshold, they transition to full representative status. At this juncture, they cannot accept donations. Their funding shifts to to the citizen-funded allocation linked to their pledge base. They gain a permanent seat in Parliament, with authority reflecting their pledges. D. Safeguards. Donations are allowed only for aspiring candidates, not for seated representatives. Judicial oversight ensures adherence to campaign finance regulations. Proxying guarantees that citizens stay represented throughout the candidate's journey. 7. Stability and safeguards. The robustness of direct representation stems not only from citizen empowerment, but also from the safeguards that deter volatility, abuse, or imbalance. Stability is maintained via clear regulations governing pledges, appropriations, authority, and oversight. A. Pledge stability. Pledges are valid for a minimum of 1 year, ensuring continuity. Citizens may withdraw pledges at any moment, reducing representative authority immediately. Withdrawals do not alter authority mid-cycle, preventing abrupt swings. B. Appropriations. Stability. Discretionary appropriations remain binding once enacted, even if pledge counts fluctuate. Enshrined programs, 75% of the budget, are shielded from reduction or reallocation. Fiscal cycles guarantee predictability. Appropriations stay effective until the year's end. C. Authority caps. Representative authority is proportional to pledges, but capped to avoid dominance. Office funding is capped to ensure equality among representatives, regardless of pledge totals. Rotational seats balance influence, preventing entrenched power groups. D. Judicial oversight. Judicial clearance is mandatory before candidacy. The judiciary protects pledge data and upholds confidentiality. Judicial audits oversee appropriations, financing, and compliance with caps. E. Transparency and accountability. All financial flows, citizen allocations, office funding, institutional budgets, are subject to public scrutiny. Donations are permitted only for aspiring candidates, with stringent disclosure requirements. Seated representatives cannot accept donations, ensuring independence. 8. Summary and integration. The framework for direct representation lays the groundwork for a government founded on citizen authority, judicial oversight, financial independence, and institutional stability. Each section interconnects to form a cohesive system: citizens and pledges. Every citizen wields one unit of political power. Pledges last a minimum of 1 year, but can be withdrawn at any time. Proxying guarantees no citizen encounters a lack of representation. Representatives' judicial clearance is necessary prior to candidacy. Candidates can gather pledges and receive donations until qualifying. Seated representatives rely entirely on citizen funding through tax-based allocations. Authority scales according to pledge counts, with safeguards against instability. Legislative structures, federal, provincial, and municipal chambers adapt the model according to their scale. Approximately 60% of seats are pledge-based, with the remainder reserved for institutional positions and unseated representatives. All representatives vote proportionately to pledges, with unseated representatives voting initially, followed by the House. Budgetary framework. 75% of the budget is allocated for enshrined programs safeguarded from volatility. 25% is discretionary, distributed proportionally by representative authority. Financing for representatives is separate, tied to pledges with caps for fairness. Compensation and office funding. Salaries are standardized and funded by citizen allocations. Office funding has limits to prevent uneven resource gathering. Institutional funding sustains the operational aspects of the House and ministries. Aspiring candidates, they serve as legitimate players who can campaign and accept donations. Supporters' pledges are proxied until the candidate qualifies. Transitioning to seated status ends eligibility for donations and starts citizen-funded financing. Stability and safeguards. Pledge commitments, along with fiscal timelines, ensure continuity. Authority caps help prevent dominance. Judicial oversight and audits guarantee transparency. Appropriations stay binding until year-end, even amidst shifting pledge counts. Integrated vision together, these elements establish a governance model that is citizen-driven. Authority directly arises from pledges. Independent. Representatives are financed by constituents, not donors. Inclusive, unseated representatives engage and vote, ensuring every pledge matters. Stable, enshrined programs, fiscal timelines, and judicial oversight minimize volatility. Scalable, federal, provincial, and municipal structures adapt the framework to their dimensions. This model balances individual empowerment with institutional strength, ensuring governance remains transparent, accountable, and responsive to the citizens it serves. Direct representation guarantees you are always represented by your chosen candidate. If you enjoyed this video, kindly click the like button. If you are intrigued by direct representation, feel free to comment and consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you for watching.